you smile more frequently. This is the golden moment for today from the Course. This is from lesson 155. It's the first paragraph. I might read a little bit more than the first paragraph, but let's read the first paragraph. I think it's a great one. There's a way of living in the world that is not here, although it seems to be. You do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. Your forehead is serene, your eyes are quiet, and the ones who walk the world as you do recognize their own. Yet those who have not yet perceived the way will recognize you also and believe that you are like them as you were before. Now, this is a fascinating paragraph. I remember listening to one of Ken Wapnick's lectures where he talked about this passage. Ken, let's just talk about Ken for a moment. If you watch some of the early videos of Ken, he seemed like a pretty serious guy. Mild-mannered, not very obtrusive, or anything like that. As he got older, apparently, I mean, you can see this in the videos, right? You watch some of the later videos. He became more and more of a comedian. He was very funny, actually. I think he had been funny his whole life, really, but he let it show more and more as things went along, and he took things more and more lightly, and that's really where the Course is taking us. Is to when you don't have fear anymore, then you can be yourself, right? The only reason you cannot be yourself is because you are not allowing yourself to be yourself, right? Because you have some kind of fear, some kind of things that are holding you back, and this is that's why this Course can be helpful in so many different ways, and it can be helpful in any endeavor you are endeavoring in your life. If you're, for example, if you are a musician, think about how this could be helpful to you if you did not have fear, if you did not have anxiety, if you did not have stage fright, if you could stand in front of a crowd of people and play even better because you are just able to go with the flow of the energy of the crowd and not be weighed down by your own inhibitions and your own whatever they may be, and you may know what I'm talking about, right? The number one fear that people have, apparently, this is statistically speaking, according to surveys, is the fear of public speaking. People fear speaking in public because of just that very thing, which is the anxiety it brings up, of like, am I good enough? Do I know enough? Are they gonna like it? They judge me, or all these things that come up, and it can be very paralyzing, devastating, right? To go up in front of people, and so musician or a athlete or anything really, this could be very helpful, useful. So the other thing that can really emphasize, which this paragraph really goes into, is to be normal, which means don't try to be special. Don't try to show how much you know, show off your spiritual knowledge, your spiritual awareness. Your don't try to dress differently or act differently, or be when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Don't try to diverge from the mainstream too much, because you don't need to. The Course, what the Course is saying is that you could be anywhere. You could be doing this Course. It may not even look like you are, but you are. So that's what this paragraph is saying. So let's read it again, and we'll just. There's a way of living in the world that is not here. So this is like Jesus says in the Gospels. I think he said, I think be in the world but not of the world. In the Gospel of John, we have to find the passage, but I think that's where that comes from, to be in the world but not of the world. So there's a way of living in the world that is not here, although it seems to be. You do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. Right? So you don't change anything. You're still just like everyone else, right? You're not trying to be different or special or anti anything, right? You smile more frequently. That's the only difference, is that you're a happier person. You're free of suffering, or you're freeing yourself of suffering. You're feeling more happiness and more joy. Your forehead is serene, your eyes are quiet. And the ones who walk the world as you do, meaning other course students or other spiritual people, recognize their own. They will recognize you for doing the spiritual work. They'll see that you are like them, right? You are a spiritual person. You've done the spiritual work. So that's why you don't need to tell anyone, because people will already realize that, right? You don't have to make any show of it. Yet those who have not yet perceived the way, so someone who is not really on the spiritual path consciously, will recognize you also and believe that you are like them as you were before. So in other words, the people who are on spiritual path, consciously on a spiritual path, whether it's the Course or otherwise, will recognize you for that. And people who are not consciously on a spiritual path will also feel a kinship and a familiarity with you, because you are just a normal, everyday person, right? You're not trying to be anything. In other words, everyone will appreciate you because you are kind of, in a sense, you are a shapeshifter, right? A chameleon. You fit into whatever environment that you go into, because you don't have any stake in trying to be something that you're not, right? You and let's put it this way. So you might say, well, maybe I want to be different. Maybe I want to dress differently, or act differently, or have different whatever. That's okay. That it's just, you don't. In other words, you don't do those things as a way to actively try to be different, because you're being anti something, right? But rather you are you're just in other words, you really don't have to change much of anything except your mind. That's what the Course keeps emphasizing: the change in your perception, the change of your mind, how you're seeing things, not the outward appearance. The only thing that will change in your own outward appearance is you will seem happier. You will be more serene. You'll be more calm. And that will be noticeable by anyone and everyone. Paragraph 2. Let's just read one more paragraph. The world is an illusion. Those who choose to come to it are seeking for a place where they can be illusions and avoid their own reality. Yet when they find their own reality is even here, then they step back and let it lead the way. So it's interesting that Jesus is saying your reality is even here, right? It's not anywhere else. It's here and now. And that reality is what Jesus calls the Holy Spirit, right? You could also say Christ consciousness. It is that place within ourself, our own inner teacher, our higher self, our inner guide, that already knows the way. And that's the lesson. I will step back and let him lead the way. What other choice is really theirs to make? To let illusions walk ahead of truth is madness, but to let illusions sink behind the truth and let the truth stand forth as what it is merely sanity. anyway, this is the whole thing is great, obviously, but I wanted to focus on that first paragraph. The first paragraph I think is very interesting, and I do want to highlight, I think, the importance of the thing that makes ACIM somewhat unique is that you don't have to go anywhere, do anything special to do the course. You can do it anywhere at any time. You don't have to go to a church. You don't have to go to a temple. You don't have to go on pilgrimage. You don't have to dress differently. You don't have to do any special rituals. You don't have to have any special beliefs. You don't have to, all these religious trappings are, they're traps, no. But the trappings are not necessary, right? It's all about just changing your mind. That's really that's the special sauce. that's where that's where the course really saves time, right? Because well, that's one of the ways it saves time, because all the other things that are the external trappings or the external rules and rituals of religion can be oftentimes less, not as helpful as they might be. And if you really just focus on what is the essence of religion, or what is the essence of spirituality, this is what the course is presenting. So anyway, I hope this is helpful today, and thanks for tuning in, and always would love to hear from you. Thank you, and see you very soon. Bye-bye.